You know, a lot of people talk about racial prejudice, and some people have gone so far as to say that there are actually two Americas, one black and one white. But talk is cheap. So I decided to look into the problem myself, firsthand, to go underground and actually experience America as a white man. Finally, I was ready.
Well, let me get this straight, Mr. White. You'd like to borrow $50,000 from our bank, but you have no collateral. You have no credit. You don't even have any ID. Is that correct?
That's right.
Mr. White, I'm sorry. This is not a charity. This is a business.
Harry, why don't you take your break now? I'll take care of Mr. White. Just take what you want, Mr. White. Pay us back any time, or don't. We don't care.
Does white privilege exist?
Absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely.
And where's the proof of that?
All around. I tell people often now, in hindsight, one of the things that I wish I would have been more cognizant of was the white privilege at UCLA that was sitting, right next to me. For Black people, I believe white privilege is something to leverage.
What is it, though? I don't see it anywhere. What is it? What is it?
How don't you
For
not
people
see
like
white
me who
privilege?
don't see it.
How do you not see white privilege?
Because it doesn't exist. That's
Yes,
what
it does.
So what is it exactly?
Things, I believe white privilege is just the ability just to be free and white and not have the same type of social, economic, and social ills as Black people have to deal with. I mean, there's no white racial profiling. White people don't get pulled over by the cops just because they're white. They have the ability to, show emotion and love to their sons without being emasculated. There's all kind of examples of white privilege.
That you
Absolutely.
believe
Why don't you Black? How come you don't believe white privilege exists? What you see?
Well, because I am Black in color, but I don't have that dark mentality that most Black people have.
Clearly.
I see, she said clearly, I see that white people have the same struggles and things that we have in that.
What type of
they have
struggles
to
do they
make their
have?
marriages work. They have to make their children, help their kids grow up in the right way so that they can earn a living and be independent.
But they also have the majority of
They
their
make
fathers
kids,
at home.
Right,
We don't
and the
have-
reason for that, it's starting to change somewhat now, but the reason for that is because they are taking responsibility for that, whereas Black men and women are not taking responsibility for that, as they did prior to the Civil Rights Movement. Black people are blaming it on their lack of self-control and self-containment. They're blaming it on white people, while white people are working hard to keep it going.
I do
for
believe
themselves.
that there is a need for Black people to be held more accountable.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that doesn't excuse racism, that doesn't excuse institutionalized racism, that doesn't excuse...
But there's no
that,
such thing as that.
Yes,
It's
it
an illusion
is.
made
No,
up
it's
by
not.
Black people and their
it's not.
leaders.
No, it's not. It exists.
Well,
Sorry.
where's the proof of it, though?
What do you mean, where's the proof of it?
A report published on Tuesday put data behind the reality of Black American incarceration by analyzing race within the state prisons and comparing those findings to the U.S. Census. The report said Black Americans were incarcerated in state prisons at an average of 5.1 times that of white Americans. In some states, that rate was 10 times or more. According to the most recent census, the U.S. is 63.7% non-Hispanic white and 12.2% Black. The research found that in 5 states, the disparity rate was more than double the average. With a ratio of 12.2 Black people to 1 white person in the prison system, New Jersey had the highest.
I'm a proud product of affirmative action. When I went to UCLA, it was because I was an affirmative action student.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And I think I turned out fantastic. So a lot of my peers who were having challenges getting into some of these predominantly white institutions, the affirmative action was great. My father went to Harvard. You know, he was one of very few blacks.
Was he an affirmative action person?
I don't know if he was. That was back in the late 60s.
Well, then he wasn't. He
Okay.
earned his way.
So, that being said, I still believe that affirmative action helped me get into UCLA, and it gave me access.
You would
and
not have
exposure.
gotten in there on your own because you were not smart enough?
I don't know if I wasn't smart enough, but based on the curve and what I was competing with you know, other individuals who had different educational opportunities and teachers. I mean, I'm coming from, you know, the LA Unified School District. I mean, so at the time, I think LAUSD was still pretty good. But I went to all white schools from high school up
So you
through
got
college.
a good education. Why couldn't you get into the school based on your own talent?
I don't know. Maybe because I didn't have some of the opportunity.
But you
first of
had
all,
the opportunity.
No, well, first of all,
You had the same opportunity
SAT,
those white kids were having.
Not necessarily. I had different teachers. I had different
So you
resources.
went to a white integrated school.
I'm talking about
mostly
going
white.
into these other into UCLA. I still had to be able to deal with some of the issues and going to predominantly white schools.
Like
but
what?
I still had to be able to compete.
Like what?
What do you mean, like what?
Some of the issues going to a predominantly
I would graduate from University High School, and at the time they didn't have an African American student union.
An African American student union?
At the school.
Well, that's a good thing.
They didn't have one.
That's a good thing.
Why?
Why do you need something like that?
But they have Asian student unions. They have Jewish student unions. They have all kind of
Did
different.
they have
student
white
unions.
student union?
They need student union. They own the whole school. So
But the kids didn't own the school. The kids didn't.
But I'm
have-
saying there's nothing. I don't think there's nothing wrong
It's
with having
amazing
a
that you think this way.
segregated